Joining us now is podcaster, commentator and Jewish advocate Rochel Leah. Rochel, thank you for joining us. I want to start off by asking you about what went to air on CBS, its flagship program 60 Minutes. It's being slammed for its interview with former hostage Keith Siegel, while host Lesley Stahl was asking him about his horrific experience in a terror tunnel. She appeared to suggest an excuse for Hamas terrorists. Listen to this.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so.
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
I mean, what's your reaction to this? I don't understand how a journalist can even suggest excuses for terrorists.
It is absolutely shocking. Watching that, rewatch, every time I see it, I'm shocked. Honestly, life for us Jews, and I hope for anyone with a heart and soul since October 7th, has been a series of just our jaws dropping to the floor in shock. I mean, Keith Siegel was held by Hamas. He's sharing the most humiliating, horrific details with her. He was sharing how they shaved his genitals and his head, how they starved him and beat him. He said to her face, "They beat me and starved me." And she responds, are you sure they starved you, or maybe they just didn't have any food? I mean, it is shocking. And she came into that interview absolutely biased. She kept calling the Hamas terrorists, militants. She kept blaming Israel and saying Bibi broke the ceasefire agreement. It was disgusting. And I hope that there is repercussions for what she did. It's terrible.
And is this just another example of how the mainstream media has been failing in covering the war?
Yes, and this is why no one trusts mainstream media anymore, why podcasters are growing. I'm a podcaster. I hope to grow even more. I mean, you can't make this up. I don't know who approved her saying that. How did she even think it was okay to say that? I cannot believe that Keith Siegel didn't get up and walk right out. Absolutely. This is why, the trust has been fractured. Absolutely.
100%. It's rightfully being slammed. Just disgusting comments. President Trump's anti-Semitism task force is reviewing almost $9 billion in grants with Harvard University and its affiliates over anti-Semitism concerns. Now, this comes after Columbia University effectively caved early this month to the Trump administration's demands to finally crack down on anti-Semitism on campus. Are you pleased to see that action's finally being taken, and what impact is this going to have?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said before, it's been a series of our jaws dropping in shock, and that's not a good thing. That's a terrible thing. This is, to me, Trump just righting the world. It's been amazing. We will never, ever forget hearing Claudine Gay, the then president of Harvard, say that, she was asked by Lesley Stahl, does it go against the Harvard guidelines to call for the genocide of Jews? And she said it depends on the context. Do you remember that? Am I the only one who thinks about that all the time? We also know that Jewish students had to walk through hallways and outdoors being harassed. Hearing other students, fellow students, call for, intifada. By the way, the absolute worst part about all of this, which is why I'm so happy Trump is doing this, and they should absolutely pull federal funding until, putting Harvard in their place. But I will never forget on October 7th, by the way, my husband and I were in Israel on October 7th, and we were 10 minutes away from Gaza. It was horrific.
Oh, goodness.
And it was terrible. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die at 25. It was the worst day of our lives. But I remember on October 7th, reading the news about how Harvard students, 33 student groups, on October 7th, the day that 1,200 Jews were slaughtered, women were raped. I saw the worst of the worst images and videos. On October 7th, 33 student groups at Harvard signed a letter blaming everything on Israel, basically effectively saying everything that happened to the Jews and Israelis, they asked for. Nothing happened. There were no repercussions. The staff and the administration couldn't have cared less. So this is great news. And again, I don't want our jaws to drop anymore. So it's great to watch Trump, put the world back in its order.
Absolutely. Look, we had similar scenes here in Australia just the day after October 7, or 2 days after. There were protesters taking to the streets, anti-Israel protesters, blaming Israel before Israel even had the chance to respond to the October 7 terror attack. And it's just wild looking at some of these anti-Israel protesters. It's hard to understand why some of the most privileged students, say at Harvard or Columbia, seem to side with terrorists instead of a democracy fighting to survive?
There's a moral rot here in America, all around the world. I believe it's completely connected to the dying of religion and how, our conservative values have been failing. It was just all around shocking. And I'm so glad that Trump is doing this. I will never forget what Claudine Gay said that day, ever, ever.
First Lady Melania Trump honoured recipients with the International Women of Courage Awards earlier this week, and former hostage Amit Susanna accepted the US State Department's 2025 International Women of Courage Award, where she called for global action to secure the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza. Take a listen.
It is an incredible honor to stand before you today, but it is also a deeply painful moment. While I am here, my friends remain in the darkness. 543 long days and nights. They are still suffering, still waiting, still hoping. Their voices remain unheard, so I will speak for them. We cannot move forward until they are free. I vowed that if I would survive, I would never be silent. I would speak not just for myself, but for every woman who had been silenced. When I first told my story, I only wanted to raise awareness about the horrors of captivity and the terror of October 7th. But my story became part of a much bigger conversation.
Such a powerful message, and it's been almost 550 days since October 7, 2023. We need every one of those hostages back.
I have to tell you that this is of all the things we spoke about, this is the closest to my heart. Again, we'll never forget that day. And, what happened to us Jews and Israelis was horrible enough to just know what happened to our people. But then the world's reaction to what happened to us, we didn't think it could get worse, but it made it worse. And I will never forget how the leading spokeswoman on anti-rape, specifically in zones of conflict and war, Angelina Jolie. This is her job, by the way. She's worked with the UN for over 10 years. She worked with UK officials for years on ending rape and ending sexual assault, specifically in areas of conflict. She has not said a word since October 7th, not a single word. Gabriella, I can't tell you how upsetting it is. I think about this all the time. Other things that were upsetting were women like Candace Owens, someone I used to look up to and listen to her show, hosting Brianna Joy Gray on her podcast. Brianna Joy Gray said out loud that everything that happened to the Jewish and Israeli women on October 7th didn't actually happen. It's just shocking. So to watch our beautiful First Lady and Marco Rubio give this award to Amit. I don't know if you watched, Gabriella, the video of Amit, writhing and wriggling and fighting the Hamas fighters as they were taking her, abducting her into Gaza. She absolutely deserves this award, and this is great news. Again, same theme. Watching the world being turned right up on its head is just so refreshing. So great news.
And power to you for speaking out about this issue. Really appreciate you coming on Power Hour today, Rochel Leah. Really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.